Wish this fucking rain would stop. Holy shit. Stupidly, oh fuck the helmet. Beyond belief sucked. Alright everyone, welcome back. Continuing on with the chopper build, of course. We're getting there. I've made a lot of headway, as you can see. So I'm a little bit ahead right now as far as where the videos are at, kind of how nature of the beast here. I actually have compression in the engine, power to the starter, and I'm starting to do the rest of all the wiring for everything. So that's in the future, just getting ahead of myself here, but just a quick little update for everyone. And I wanted to address something that was brought up in the last video, the paint video. Well, the final color video, the purple. I realized when I was editing, I didn't record a lot of the important steps, nor did I elaborate on anything to explain what was going on. So I'm gonna try to do that here. In a previous video, I said I was using a color called Purple from House of Color. It's called Purple Candy. Ended up not using that because it came out blue. There was no purple in it whatsoever. The original thought I had for this before I was introduced to candy concentrates and things like that was a plum crazy purple, the Mopar color. So I wanted this to be purple. That purple was like a navy blue. There was no purple in it whatsoever. And that's actually what happened to the fuel canister I had. Was I did a test spray on that stupidly, and it's blue as hell. Actually, I'll get it real quick. So yeah, this is the fuel canister. This was advertised as a purple, you know, a purple blue. So not a total loss. I'm still going to use this. Luckily, it came with this fancy little case here, so I can just kind of leave it covered and, you know, put it wherever I need it. I filmed a bunch of B-roll in the sun earlier before all this storm started happening, so you can actually see the final color of the chopper. Because like I said, I didn't film anything. I didn't film any polishing, buffing, anything last time. In this footage, like I said, this stuff has been buffed, it has been polished, but I'm gonna do it again. After the move, things got kind of scuffed up. I actually ended up dinging the fender. I got a pretty nice ding to it down to the bare metal. Luckily, the seat is gonna cover it up, so not too worried about it, but just kind of disheartening when that happens after I just spent, you know, hours painting this thing. But yeah, the fender came out really, really nice. This was actually my wife's idea for this design, and this is what kind of sparked everything else to have this very angular design with alternating graphics. We got the skulls, the sunbeams, and the lotus petals alternating back and forth. There's a total of 6 whole panels, and then there's like a little panel at the bottom that just kind of looks black. And as you can see, the taped off areas where the V's are at, and there's a smaller line underneath of it, that's what stayed the lightest color. That was the thought process behind that, was that these borders would be the lightest color purple possible, so they didn't get any graphics. That's where I taped off the panels. There was someone in the comments in the last video that was a little, I don't want to say confused and disrespect the guy or anything, but he wanted some clarification, so this is it. The taping was the original gray color that was going into the spraying the candy, knowing it was going to be the lightest color of that candy, which was the voodoo violet in this case, the purple. And then doing that, I knew that the black airbrush graphics would fade from the lighter purple to black, or a dark purple in the sun. And that's exactly what happened with these candy concentrates. They're really cool how they work. They really make these colors vibrant as could be. And then the bottom part of the fender, I just left silver with flake, just because I didn't really want to waste any of the voodoo violet on the bottom where it's not going to be seen. Because this fender hugs the tire pretty tight, I figured leave that as is, put some clear coat on it to protect it from, you know, all the water and grime that's going to be up underneath there. So moving on to the gas tank. The gas tank came out great. I'm really happy that this is the centerpiece of this bike, because the graphics, the flake, the purple, I mean, down to the gas cap, this thing came out great. Yeah, again, alternating graphics on here. Top having the skull lace with the lotus petals on either side. The very side panels are skull lace again, with just this insane amount of flake on it. Bottom's the lotus petals, and the front here is my absolute favorite. These sun rays on the front corners came out just absolutely ridiculous. They look so good. And then the Lotus pedals in the very front really complement it. I couldn't be happier with this tank. And like I said, with that micro silver flake, it really pops in the sun, as you'll be able to see with this B-roll. Looking at it just here in the garage, it just kind of looks like it has some flake in it, but when it's out in the sun, all the flake pops. I mean, there's like 4 different colors of flake in this thing. Didn't do any close-ups of the oil tank just because it's mounted on the bike. I'm trying to leave it mounted on the bike, but again, came out pretty nice. Had some issues with the lace stretching it around the rounded ends. Kind of hard to do just by myself, so I actually had to have my wife come help kind of hold it in place while I sprayed it. So there's a couple spots that are a little bit inconsistent, but again, it's one of those things that no one's really gonna notice except me, because I'm the one that did it. But just sitting here looking at it, you won't be able to tell. So yeah, and then the helmet. The helmet came out awesome. I decided to rip all of the rubber lining around the visor and around the bottom of the helmet off and get some chrome weather stripping from local auto store, O'Reilly's in my case, and I'm putting chrome all around it just to sort of make it all a little bit more flashy to match a lot of the chrome on the bike. Same design as the fender, the V's all the way down from the very top of the visor all the way back to the nape area of the helmet, I guess you would call it, alternating between the same 3 patterns. The sides were kind of just blank when I first did it because I laid out the middle part first, so I kind of wasn't sure where to go with that. So I just sort of gave it an old, almost looks like a Union Jack in a way. That's what I see when I look at it, sort of. And then I just threw some skull lace and some sun rays on it. And it came out pretty well. The tape I was using was some cheap ass Amazon vinyl tape. You'll see in a later video when I painted someone else's helmet, that tape fucking sucked. Beyond belief sucked. I found this guy on Instagram, Time Warp Custom Paint. He has his own shop on Amazon where he sells line tapes. That tape is fucking amazing. It sticks really well. It handles tight radiuses really well. Yeah, helmet came out great. It matches everything. Very vibrant purple. Again, as you can see in the sun with all the flake, it looks good. Okay, so pretty much the steps I took to get to this paint, just for clarification, again, because I didn't record very well and there were some questions about it. Basically, started out normal. Everything here was bare metal except the helmet and the fuel bottle. Or everything that was bare metal, I sanded down to, I want to say it was a 400 grit, I think is what the primer I use calls for. The fuel bottle and the helmet, I sanded pretty much the base, or the top coat of everything off, and then finished with around 400 grit. Then I went ahead, sprayed everything with primer, good 3 solid coats on everything. And then of course let it dry, sanded that down with 600 grit. And then we started getting into planning colors. Base color went down, it was the silver, but it was just a basic metallic silver paint. A light color as a base. So sprayed all that on, good 3 coats on everything. Let that dry. And then we went in with the metal flake. From my understanding, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I know of 2 ways to do flake. You can do a dry flake, and you can do it with a clear coat. I did a clear coat because I do not have a dry flake gun, which I'm pretty sure you need to have a special gun for. Again, might be wrong. So basically, I kind of eyeballed it, mixed flake with clear coat, put it in the gun, put again, like I said in the old videos, it's not an amount of coats, it's amount of coverage. So I think I ended up doing 3 coats. And that gave me the amount of coverage I wanted on top of the silver. So far, sanding, primed, silver base, metal flake in the clear coat. That's where we're at so far. Okay, so after the clear coat with the flake dried, you have to sand that down to get everything nice and smooth, because the flake is gonna have some, for lack of a better term, elevation changes in the paint. That's gonna make the tape not stick very well. So wet sanded everything to 600. You're gonna lose some flake when you do that. It just, the stuff on the very top is going to go away. So kind of overspray, if you will, on the flake. That's how I was doing it. I probably could have even done more because a lot of the bigger flake got sanded away. So yeah, wet sand to 600, so everything's nice and even, nice and smooth. And then I sprayed it down with glass cleaner and cleaned it really well. That's a tip I learned from that guy, Time Warp Custom Paint. He uses a spray-on foaming glass cleaner. That guy does some insane shit, so I took a page out of his book with that one. After the sanding, the cleaning, and drying, that's when I went into taping everything off. So everything under the tape stayed silver when I started airbrushing graphics on. So taped all the panels off, the tank, the fender, the oil tank, fuel bottle, helmet, everything got taped with panels. That was hands down the most time-consuming part between planning, executing, cutting tape. Took a long time, again, took a lot of thought into it. So once all the panels were taped off, that's when I came in with the black airbrush and did all the graphics. So graphics are sprayed on. Okay, so now we're at sanding, priming, sanding, base coat of silver, metal flake with clear, sanding, taping panels. Now we're at airbrushing black graphics. Once all that's done, you peel away all the tape unless there's anything you don't want dyed, the tint you're using or the top coat you're using. If you go through all this work and you use just a normal top coat, everything is gonna get covered up. That's where these candy concentrates come in good, or come in handy, is it's a tint. It dyes everything without covering anything up. It's almost like a water viscosity, which is why you start with the light base coat of, in my case, the silver. Peel all the tape off. I didn't want anything to be left behind as silver, so I pulled all the tape off. And then sprayed with a couple good coats of the purple candy, the Voodoo Violet candy. I sprayed until I liked the color. No set amount of coats. I can't even remember how many I did. It could have been 4 or 5, it could have been 2. I don't remember. But I got the depth of color I wanted, the shade of color I wanted, all that. So from there, I could have just finished it with clear coat, 4 or 5 good thick coats of clear coat. But I mean, this thing is an old school chopper. I wanted it to look fucking good. I wanted it to pop. So I went ahead and added that micro silver to some more clear coat, sprayed it on heavy, let that clear coat dry, and then more sanding to get everything nice and even. Good wet 600 grit is what I did. Same thing as the first layer of flake. Sanded it so it was all even, and then used the glass cleaner, sprayed everything, wiped it down, and let it dry. Final layer of clear coat. I think that's one mistake that I made, which I will probably remedy in the future, was I did not use enough clear coat on the top of this. I only did about 4 coats because that's what I've normally done on just about everything else, but I did not take into account, I guess, the different textures of everything, maybe, I don't know. I've heard some guys say they use, like up to 10 coats of clear coat and give it some real depth. Again, I may take this off later down the road and throw some more clear coat on it, sand it, buff it, do all that good stuff. So yeah, then I went into buffing and polishing. That's a whole other can of worms that I'll get into at a later time. Hopefully that's enough detail for anyone who is wondering about the paint. If you're trying to get into this on your own, it does seem a bit daunting, especially with like painting, sanding, painting, sanding, painting, sanding, painting, clear coat, buffing, polishing. It seems like a lot. It is a lot. It really is cool to see an actual visualization you have in your mind come to fruition. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions about the paint or anything else, hit me up on Instagram. Oh, one last thing. For anyone who followed my Dyna build, sort of the genesis of this channel, if you will. Recently went on a road trip with the Dyna, supposed to go to Fort Worth. From where I'm at, it was about 1,400 miles round trip. Pretty sure my transmission blew up on the Dyna halfway to Texas. Got stranded in Little Rock. It was a fucking nightmare. Unfortunately, I didn't film any of it because I was having a terrible fucking day. So, silver lining, probably gonna be a lot more Dyna content coming up with probably a 6-speed upgrade if that is the issue. I have no idea what the issue is, so I'm just kind of going in blind. There'll be more details about that later. So that's about it for an update and some more explanation of how the paint came to be. A lot of help from a lot of guys that I know and guys I know online. Reach out to people. There's a lot of good people out there willing to share nuggets of wisdom with you if you just ask. And if someone refuses to, they're probably a gigantic piece of shit.